Hey, beautiful. Welcome back to Woman Dare to Live. Ladies, we are cheering you on as you step out of fear and into the freedom God designed for you. I'm Walda Collins, your host and faith filled friend. Today, we're talking about something that sounds really simple, but can feel tricky in real life, and that's walking by faith, not sprinting, not skipping, not hiding under the covers. And oh, I've been there, but walking one step at a time and trusting God along the way. So, ladies, you know what to do. Grab your coffee, your Woman Dare to Live hydration cup. Oh, yeah. And listen, if you don't have one, go check it out on our website at womandaretolive.com. So grab your pens and your journals if you're taking notes, because we're going to jump in. We're diving right in, and we're going to have some faith filled fun today that will help us walk by faith every single day. Y'all ready? Go grab your source of hydration and let's get at it.
Thank you for tuning in to Woman Dare to Live with your host, Walda Collins, speaker, mentor, and founder of Women Dare to Live movement. Walda's passion is helping women step out of fear, living boldly in faith, joy, and purpose. Get ready for real talk, uplifting stories, and practical wisdom, because here we don't just survive, we dare to live it.
So, the first point I want to talk with you about today is walking by faith requires trust. Yeah, it requires a level of trust that sometimes we're not always willing to part with. Now, the thing about it is, trust is easy when you know the full plan, right? But God doesn't always hand us the blueprint. He gives us just enough light for the step we're on. And Psalms 119, 105 reminds us that His word is a light to our feet and a lamp to our path. And He won't always give us the full view, but just enough light to only show the next one or two steps. Think about it. It's like walking down a hallway that's really dark with a tiny flashlight. You don't see the end, but you keep moving because you know that hallway is going to lead somewhere. And really, that's what trust looks like. Have you ever had a moment, and one of those moments when God gives you an instruction, and your first thought is, you sure about that, Lord? Yeah, that was Abraham. Think about Abraham. He's kind of chilling, minding his own business, and maybe even sipping on some ancient iced tea. And God drops this wild assignment on him. Hey, Abraham, you know that son you prayed for your whole life? That miracle baby you waited decades for? Yeah, that one. I need you to sacrifice him. Now, really, can you imagine the look on Abraham's face? Like, come again, Lord? You mean like sacrifice, or more like a metaphorical thing, like give him back to you kind of thing? But here's the crazy part: Abraham didn't argue. Abraham didn't delay. He didn't text 10 friends for confirmation. He just gets up early the next morning. Now, that, my friends, that's faith. Because when God asks me to do something hard, I need to hit the snooze button 3 times, read a devotional, pray about it. But Abraham and Isaac, they're hiking up this mountain, and Isaac's like, Dad, we've got the wood, we've got fire, but where's the lamb? And Abraham was like, Oh, don't worry, son. God's got it. Which, by the way, is the best faith answer in the Bible. He didn't know how it was going to work out, but he trusted that God would provide. And sure enough, just when it looked impossible, there's a ram caught in the bushes. Like God said, see, I told you I'd handle it. So, friend, here's the thing, you don't have to know how, you just have to know who. Trust God's character even when the details don't make sense. Because while you're stressing over the mountain, God Himself, God's already got a ram in the bush. And this is what I want to ask you. What's one area of your life where you need to hand the steering wheel back to God and trust Him with the GPS? Trust Him with the system. Secondly, I want to talk to you about walking by faith requires action. When we read Hebrews 11, often called the Faith Hall of Fame, yeah, every single person mentioned, they didn't just believe, they did something. Noah built, Abraham left, Moses stretched out his staff, Esther spoke up. Faith always moves. So here's the truth. If you're praying for something, believing for something, or declaring something, but you're not doing anything, come on. It's time to move your feet. It's time to think about your GPS. You can put in a destination, sit in your car, and wait all you want. But your GPS isn't going to reroute or show you new directions until you start driving. Faith works the same way. God gives direction to movement. You've got to keep moving. When you start driving, that's when the system says, now turn right or take the next exit. So, in other words, God can't steer what's standing still. So maybe you've been asking, Lord, what's next? And heaven is responding, I'm waiting for you to take the next step. Heaven is not going to reach down and move your feet, and heaven is not going to take action for you. You have to move. You have to believe boldly enough that when you take that step, that God is right there with you. Let's make this a little more easier to take in. Faith looks like sending the application, even though you're not sure if you'll get the job. Faith looks like making the phone call that could even open the next door. Faith looks like starting the business, even if you only have the name and a notebook. That, my friends, my sisters, that's really what faith looks like. Faith looks like taking that moment to write the book, even if you don't have a publisher, even if you don't know where to start. Faith says, I'm going to pull out my pen and paper and pray for the words to come to me. Faith looks like saying yes, even when everything else in you wants to stay put, stay comfortable, stay where it feels good. Faith is not waiting for perfect conditions, it's trusting a perfect God. I want to give you a quick faith check. So, right now, think about something you've been praying about, but haven't taken action. You haven't made a move on it. Maybe it's a dream that keeps tugging at your heart. Maybe it's even a tough conversation that you've been avoiding. Or maybe it's a next step that feels so big that it scares the daylights out of you. I've heard it said before that if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. So ask yourself, what's one baby step I can take this week to show that I'm walking by faith, not just talking about it? Maybe your step is researching the business name, reaching out to a mentor or someone you feel could pour into you to help you take the next steps. Maybe it's registering for a class, writing that first paragraph, like we mentioned earlier, or just saying, "Yes, Lord, I'm ready." Because here's what I've learned: when you move, heaven moves with you. James 2 and 17 says, faith without works is dead. We've heard it before, but that means you can't just believe in your miracle. You've got to walk towards it. You've got to water the seed God placed in you with action, consistency, and trust. Sometimes that action looks small, like a phone call. Sometimes it looks risky, like quitting a job or moving to a new city. But every act of faith says to God, I trust you more than I trust my fear. And when God sees faith in motion, he multiplies it, he honors it, and he breathes on it. And I know stepping out can be scary. I know the what ifs can be loud, but the next chapter of your story won't unfold until, sis, until you turn the page. So go ahead, take the step. Even if your voice shakes, even if your knees quake, send the email, fill out the form, make the call, launch the idea, because you never know. Your one act of obedience could be the doorway to your answered prayer. So here's another challenge for you this week. I want you to write down one area where you've been standing still in faith. One step you can take to move forward. Then pray over it. Don't pray over it and wait. Pray, then take the step. Remember, faith doesn't wait for clarity. Faith creates clarity as you walk, as you move. And when you move, God meets you on the journey. So let's move by faith and not by sight. Because your next move might just be your breakthrough. And finally, I want to share with you that walking by faith brings peace. Walking by faith brings such a calmness to our lives that we don't have to worry about the chaos. And here's, my favorite part of this is when you finally let go of control. And I know that's easier said than done. But something shifts inside of you. Instead of carrying the weight of the world, you begin to rest in the one who's holding the world. It's that breath, that deep breath moment when you say, God, I don't have the answers, but I trust you anyway. And in that moment, peace walks in, peace enters in. You see, faith and control can't sit in the same seat. One has to drive while the other rides. When you try to control everything, the outcome, the timing, the details, you end up exhausted, frustrated, and overwhelmed. But when you hand God the wheel and say, Lord, I trust you to get me there. Suddenly, tension eases. Faith allows you to breathe again, to laugh again, to rest again. And here's what I've learned that faith allows you to dance through the detours. Even when things don't go the way you plan, you can still have joy because you know God is in control. You can smile through the uncertainty because you know your story is safe in His hands. Faith. Faith lets you show up with peace in places that used to cause panic. It's the difference between saying, I have to figure this out, and God's already worked it out. Come on. Come on. God's already worked it out. Let me share this with you. There was a time when I had to make a decision that carried so much weight. I didn't know what was going to happen financially, emotionally, or even spiritually for that matter. And I remember lying in bed one night, just praying, crying out to God, and asking for clarity. And all I heard in my spirit was, be still and know that I am God. Whew. So instead of rushing, I decided to rest. I stopped striving and started trusting. And do you know what happened? Peace came before the answer did. I didn't have all the details worked out, but what I did have, I had a calm in my soul. And that calm was proof that God was already at work. And when the answer finally came weeks later, it was better than what I could have orchestrated on my own. That's what peace does. It guards your heart while you wait for the promise. Now, let's make this even a little more personal for you. I want you to think about a situation in your life that feels heavy right now. It could be your finances, your health, a poor doctor's report, your children, your business, your next step in your ministry or your calling. Take a deep breath and say this with me. God, I trust you with this. That's it. No long prayer, no perfect words, just surrender. Because peace lives where trust begins. Peace lives in the midst of us beginning to trust more, trust God more with the outcome of things. So for your challenge, each night before bed, take a moment to release whatever is weighing on your mind and whisper these words. God, I trust you with this. And then let peace in. You'll be amazed how your sleep changes when your soul isn't wrestling for control. You'll wake up lighter, calmer, and more confident that whatever's happening, God's got you. Philippians 4:7 reminds us, it says, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That's the kind of peace faith brings. Peace that doesn't even make sense, but still covers you completely. So remember, faith steadies you in the midst of uncertainty. Faith fuels your courage to act, and faith, true surrendered faith, brings peace to your heart and rest to your soul. So tonight, as you lie down, as you close your eyes, don't carry the weight of the world. Whisper your trust, release your worries, and rest in the hands of the one who never lets go. Wow, ladies, that was so good to my spirit and to my soul. Let's wrap this up for today. We talked about walking by faith requires trust. Knowing God doesn't always show us the whole plan, but He always gives us the light we need for today or even for the moment. We also talked about faith requires action. Faith isn't still, it moves, it steps out, and it shows up even when it's uncomfortable. And then finally, we learn that walking by faith brings peace because when God's in control, we don't have to be. So this week, I want to challenge you to put your faith in motion. Take one small step that says, God, I trust you. And then watch. Watch how peace follows your obedience. Ladies, if this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend who needs a little faith boost today. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, give us a rating, and leave a quick review so more women can join us on this faith journey. Remember, we're not in this alone. You're not in this alone. We're in this together. Until next time, I'm Walda Collins, reminding you to dare to live, dare to laugh, and most of all, dare to walk by faith. I love you, ladies, and I'll see you next time.